It's Dee on the spot.
Welcome to an episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to my next guest here, I'd like to remind everyone that if they enjoy this content, to please like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. Today we have the band Capra on with us. They are a band from Lafayette, Louisiana. How you guys doing?
Great.
Awesome.
So we like to start this off by kind of hearing what got you guys started into music, kind of like what your influences are. Did you ever have like that moment where you listen to like a certain song and then you're like, oh my god, I got to get into music? You guys can each answer this question individually, but so yeah, how'd you guys get started in music?
For me, it was like 18 years ago. We used to have a music venue out in Brobridge called Main Street, and I would, sneak out of my house and go to shows. And I don't know, I always saw people playing music. I think it was View of a Burning City around here that really got me into it. And so I got a bass and asked some people to join a band, and we started a band and met this guy.
Yeah, similar situation. I was at Main Street. Our bands played with his bands, and that's how we kind of hit it off. And people started moving and growing up, and we kind of always played music since. So
yeah, we've been in 9 bands together at this point. So.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to play music ever since I was a teenager, and I didn't really get to go to a whole lot of all ages shows. So it wasn't until I was about 18 and I saw some local bands like The Transmission. There's a female punk rock band called the Rah Rahs down here, and they kind of one of the main bands that got me into punk rock. To them, it's looking at Minor Threat and all kinds of classic hardcore kind of shit.
Well, believe me, my first show was also when I was 18, and that was a Bryan Adams show, so you got me beat on that.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's a good first show.
I'm a closet Bryan Adams fan. I think he's got some good songs, and it was an entertaining show. But when you guys were forming out this band in particular, we've had a lot of bands on here, and I've been surprised by the amazing amount of Craigslist bands that have been formed by everyone going on Craigslist. Tell me that you guys have not had an experience like that, because I'm just afraid that someone's gonna get murdered.
No, we have not.
Never went down
all of
that
our
road.
members usually we'll use Facebook, social media to do that. Keep it close. People we know. I don't understand how other bands can do that. You got to find the right chemistry to play music with somebody.
Right.
If you're hiring some dude off Craigslist, there's no telling who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You could be robbed in a week.
Finally,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I've been saying. Then everyone's like, "No, it's worked out really great for us." It's there's been 4 bands on here that have said that, and I was like, "Well, I mean, you guys are picking your poison." But when you guys were starting out, was there ever a discussion as to what genre you guys wanted to play, or were you guys kind of all in the similar mindset of what you guys wanted to play?
Well, when we started, it was a lot different. I don't think we really had anything in mind. We just kind of played together and wanted to find our sound, and that gradually became who we are today. We lost some members, and that kind of switched our sound up quite a bit. So it's just what we grew into.
Mm-hmm. When you guys were first coming up with different songs and new ways of melodies and everything, did you guys kind of have a certain inspiration in mind when you guys were starting?
Oh yeah,
I'd
I
say so.
definitely did.
Yeah.
For bass, when we'll get to the story of how Capra came to be. I originally started off on bass, and for my bass playing, I do a lot of Jesus Lizard, Young Widows type sound. I wanted that nasty crunch, and then guitar. Jordan Buckley of Every Time I Die and Kurt Ballou of Converge are 2 of my biggest influences. So now that kind of meshes into our sound.
Yeah, and I'm a big Tucker Rule fan from Thursday, that drummer. And we've been listening to this type of music on and off since 02, 03, and we always come back to it, and it just felt right this time. We were actually able to put together songs that just felt better than anything we've done before. So it just started to click, and yeah, it's been fun. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
it's been a journey, but we got a lot coming up that we're excited about.
What you got?
And it's when I first heard them, they were definitely different because I'm the newest guy here. But we've talked about it a couple times. It's there's a few songs in our set list that were from the early set, And with this new EP we just dropped, it's solidifying a solid sound that we all are happy about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to lyrically, what you guys have in your music, is there any certain themes that you guys like to explore?
Some of the times, when I'm writing a guitar part, or if I'm putting the structure down guitar wise, I'll come up with a name of the song, and then Lee will kind of write around that. But Lee's very big into horror and stuff like that, so he uses a lot of like the old, like what we just did, Red Guillotine. So he'll use like the old death traps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any, or when you guys perform, do you guys ever have any of those like gimmicks or stunts, like the fake blood or any of that stuff?
No, not too much.
Confetti every once in a while.
We'll like blow confetti, big tubes of confetti into the crowd. We do like silly string and stuff like that. We try to make it a party. As far as the gimmick, I think we're the gimmick. We just go completely chaotic apeshit on stage. It's an event to see. You could hear us live, but I mean, you could hear us on CD or digitally, but seeing it live is completely different.
What was the first song that you guys recorded? Do you guys remember?
Probably Night Out with Medusa. I think that was the first one we did.
Oh, that's great. So, out of all the music that you guys have released so far, what would you say has been your most popular song?
Hot Lips.
Probably Hot Lips, yeah. Or Red Guillotine. Red Guillotine's a personal favorite. Yeah. But I think more people are into... They understand Hot Lips a little bit more.
So, like you said, your singer has a little bit of a horror genre, or he likes horror themes. When he comes to you guys with the lyrics, do you already have like the melody set in mind, or you guys just kind of work with him into the lyrically, or how's that work?
We just let him take the reign on it.
There's times where we'll like hear a placement though of how you can say something around a riff going into a transition, especially like we'll toss ideas whenever we feel it, but most part it's all Lee. Yeah.
Now, this next question goes to the drummer, because the drummer, I love to talk to the drummers because drumming is what I kind of use to get into music. I've never been in a band, but I just like banging on the drums every once in a while. Being a drummer specifically, do you ever feel any added pressure when you guys are performing live? Because you are kind of the backbone of the band. If you screw up, basically everyone else screws up. How do you deal with that sort of extra surge of pressure?
I try to warm up and not think about it too much, but once it's time to play, I'm out of my body at that moment. Like it's definitely like the closest thing to a religious experience that I ever have is performing, and that's what keeps me coming back to it.
What would you say is the most underrated aspect of drummers overall, in the whole music scene?
Being able to play in time and not overplay. That's like, if you're a good pocket drummer and you could just hold it down with fat beats and you're not messing up and you're not overplaying or you're catering to the song. Like, I think that gets kind of overlooked because there's a lot of flashy guys out there, especially in metal, because it is kind of a flashy thing in certain genres of it, but subgenres of it. But that to me is the most underrated thing.
Yeah. And now, Tyler, this is going to you because I know that you were the bass player, and everyone knows the bass player is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the band. You get no respect. What would you say personally is the most undervalued part of the bass section in a band?
I think the bass player is one of the most important parts of a band. If the bass and the drums, the rhythm section is one of the most important parts. Of course, everybody notices the guitar first, but if you've got a bass player that's off or overplaying,
or don't have one at all,
or if you don't have one, it shows.
Yeah,
we went a while without a bass player, and people still liked it, but once we got the bass player, it was like, okay, this is full now. This sounds like it's supposed to sound, and without a bass player, I think the bass player is the most undervalued part. of the band.
Yeah, I'd agree absolutely. That's the one thing I've learned since I started this podcast. I didn't really know that much about bass playing, and I had no idea kind of how they're the backbone of, like I said, the drummer's the backbone of the band, but the bass player is definitely the backbone of the guitar, keeping down the beat basically for the guitar player. And it's a very undervaluated position unless you're like one of the top 5 bass players of all time. Like no one really gives them too much attention, so that's why I always like to ask that question, because it is so purely undervalued. And now we got to go. When you're playing guitar, have you found that your background in bass has helped you overall in your guitar playing skills?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can do more with guitar, obviously, but knowing, how do I put this? Knowing when to be simple and when to be complicated is something that, because I can play both, know what to do. And then, we found the perfect bass player for our band who doesn't do exactly what I do on guitar. He'll switch it up, and there's moments where like the guitar will shine, there's moments when the bass will shine, and the drums. So we have to know when to back out and let somebody else kind of shine.
Being a former bass player yourself, and this is for both of you guys, did both of you guys kind of ever butt heads or find it difficult to come up with stuff together, knowing that you used to play bass, and like you might have ever thought like, oh, if only he'd play it like this, and then he might be thinking like, oh, if only he'd let me kind of, did that ever happen to you guys?
Not for me.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
He's pretty chill. Sometimes I just show up like, yeah, so I'm actually playing this part like this, and he's normally pretty supportive of it.
Yeah.
As long as it sounds okay in the song,
Right. There's times where I'll say, like, hey, try this in a live version instead of how we did it on the record, just so it's a little bit different. And, he just goes along with it.
Yeah.
Just checking here, folks. We had one band who already said that they hated each other's guts, and I was like, well, then you guys were probably not going to last too much longer. So,
yes.
So one of the big thing that we like to talk about here a lot is kind of like performing live and the high and the thrill of it. I mean, everyone like you kind of, the drummer said before, it's like almost a religious experience performing live. People always talk about it as it's a high unlike any other drug that you could ever take. What does that mean specifically to each? We'll go through each of you guys. What does that feeling mean specifically to you?
I don't know. When I get on stage, I just put it all out there. I will destroy my body for rock and roll, and deal with the repercussions the week after. I'm actually dealing with it right now. I had to go to the doctor yesterday from a show last week. I pulled something in my back, and my neck's all messed up right now. I'm kind of turning weird, but I leave it out all on the stage. It doesn't matter if I'm playing for 5 people or 5,000. You're gonna get a show.
Yeah.
Out of me. So it is, it is my religion. Mm-hmm. I was born to do this.
Yes. Yeah, I've been performing for a long time, but I'm still really nervous up to the point that the first note rings out in your first song for your set, and then you just kind of drop everything off and just get in the moment. Like, to me, if you're not drenched in sweat by the end of the show, you weren't putting on much of a show.
Yeah. Energy is very important.
Yeah. Because you can be the best band in the world, but if you're boring to watch,
I still listen to a record.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you guys have any like pre-show traditions that you guys like to do? Like, I've had bands on here say like, "Oh, we each like to have like a shot before we go on stage to get some liquid courage. We like to stretch." Do you guys have like a sort of a checklist that you guys go through before you go on stage, or do you just like to wing it?
I think we all kind of almost separate for a while before, like we don't hang out too much right before we play, and we all kind of just do whatever we got to do. Like, I, for one, have to stretch and make sure that I'm not going to, like, lock up, because that happens a lot if I don't. So, yeah, I think we all just kind of have our own tradition, but I don't really know what y'all's are.
Yeah,
we all kind of just separate, like I said.
I stretch, I relax, I think about nothing but the show and what's about to happen. I don't drink, so there's no shots on my end. I kind of get in that zone. And so, I'll warm up, I'll go play. It's a time for no distractions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Lee's probably the one that drinks the most. I try to keep it to where, like, maybe just slightly buzzed off of a few beers. I don't try to get annihilated.
Same.
I've learned a lot of hard lessons.
For every beer I'm
playing
drinking,
punk bands and just terrible sets from being too hammered. It's a learning experience.
We've kind of got that under control.
I found that it can
in
be
our
weird
young-
because some guys you talk to, they're like, yeah, I perform a lot better when I'm drunk, and then a lot of guys are like, no, the majority I'd say would say like I perform way crappier when I'm drunk. What do you think kind of might have something to play with that? Because I've always been fascinated on like some of those guys that are able to drink a lot and then able to perform. Is it maybe the style of music that they do, or is it just they're just weird like that?
I think it has something to do with the style. Sometimes, I mean, they have like this, the stoner doom genre out there, the sludgy stuff, and it's real slow. So it's not, it's pretty easy to get by just like being, drunk, stoned, or whatever most of those guys do. It seems like there's a lot of like drugs in that genre. Unfortunately, even though a lot of the music actually does kick ass, it's just one of those things. I think it has something to do with genre, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of and careless bands. I mean, if you're just getting up there to play and who cares,
Yeah.
A lot like a big percentage of being successful in music is image, and I don't know how they get away with it. We've learned not to do that. We want to look professional, and
Yeah.
I can't imagine being trashed going on a 30-day tour and being hungover to do this.
Yeah, the tour thing definitely woke me up. Like last year, whenever we went on about a 10-day run at the beginning of last year, and we didn't party every night. We didn't do all that. The shows were better. Like I felt better day to day. We were getting enough sleep. It wasn't rah-rah partying all night. It was we felt like adults about it, and it was a good tour.
Yeah, you just connect with each other a little bit better when you're not so cloudy.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the big things that I learned from this, probably the biggest misconception was when I came out starting this podcast, I always had that kind of movie idea where touring was all just one big party and everyone just had fun all the time, and it was just like the best thing that you can do. And obviously that's the experience for like probably those bands that are like super famous, like you have like the Rolling Stones, bands like that who they can trash rooms and stuff and they can just go and do whatever they want. But for bands starting out and for bands trying to make it, I came to realize that it's very much a huge struggle. You more than likely lose more money than you gain from tour just for paying for gigs or just bringing merch with and stuff. What was your guys' tour experience like?
We actually broke even.
Yeah.
On the tour we did last year.
Which is always the goal. You don't want to lose money.
Right.
Making,
We were able to stay
making
in
money is the
hotels
goal,
too,
but
yeah.
Yeah, but in this kind of genre, it's trying to break even.
Yeah.
Breaking even is successful.
Especially when you're touring and you're going to these new cities. Nobody really knows who you are yet. You try to put up you try to play with bands that you know and people that can promote, but it's always a hit or miss. We've played shows where it's like, oh, we're in a new city and it's packed. Oh, we're in a new city tonight and there's 2 people here. We played in Memphis at one point in time and there was 2 people.
Oh.
So
and both those people bought merch right after the show.
Hey, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Right, and we played those shows, the same way. You'll see it the exact same way.
Do you think that those performances and those shows kind of help you guys grow sort of like a mental toughness that really helps you guys, and then it makes you like appreciate those big shows even more?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's humbling, and it's all about how you react, to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not going to be divas about it and say, "Oh, there's 2 people here, like we're out of here." We're going to take it as a practice.
Oh yeah,
we're for the next date, and we're going to show 2 new people what we can do.
Absolutely, and who knows, maybe one of those guys will end up being someone who then recommends you guys to somebody and then just says, hey, check out this band, and you never know. That's one thing I've come to realize too with this, just like reaching out to bands to get them on the show. You never know. One band that says yes might know someone who then gets you into contact with more people. It's just it's all about who you know, and it's all about just being friendly and just making sure that you get your message out, and that's what I found is most important. So we love to hear first concert stories, like first live shows that you guys performed at. As a band, what was your first live show story and how did it go?
Bisbanos.
It was at a place called Bisbanos in a cellar, and you kind of go. It's a pizza restaurant, and you go underneath, and it's like this dungeon of a bar.
And the only thing in Louisiana, I think, like that, there's not really many basements or cellars,
right?
And especially in Lafayette, because we're pretty
we're
even
good.
with sea level,
yeah.
But it was I remember it was in April. We played with our buddies 10 Foot Beast. They're from Austin, Texas, and Father Rust, which is a really, really good local band. And, man, it was packed. People wanted to see our new stuff, and it was packed. And, you know, even though we sounded a lot different back then, you know, those people have kind of stuck with us locally.
How has your sound changed over time?
Well,
drastically.
Yeah.
More aggressive.
Yeah, when we started out, we started out in 2016. I was playing bass. Jeremy was playing guitar. We had a guy named Devin Contreras on drums, and Trin Mallet doing vocals. And after that first show, you know, we'd hear stuff like, "Oh, you sounded like Thursday," "Oh, you sounded like At the Drive-In," and it's like, "Oh, cool." But then I believe it was like June. We had a show.
We had a couple shows booked. Yeah.
Yeah, we had
quit.
a few, and Devin quit the band. He had some issues, and we didn't want to cancel any shows. So Jeremy moved to drums. I knew all the guitar parts. I moved to guitar, and we just continued on as a 3-piece. And it kind of really started to mold at that point. We got a lot faster. We got a lot more complicated, and then eventually down the line, we got rid of Trin. And we replaced him with Lee, who is now our current vocalist. We went through a few bass players, finally settled on Ben, but now, like, I mean, just looking back on what we started and what we are now, going from people saying we sound like At the Drive-In to, oh, you sound like Converge, it's a drastic difference.
Now, Vin, when you joined these guys, since you were one of the last guys to join, did you kind of find it difficult to come in and like adjust to their sound, or were they like really reasonable about it, and did you find it fairly easy to join?
It was fairly easy to join. I've known these guys for years and years.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I came in normally. I've tried out for other bands. I try to come in knowing a few of the songs. I listened to their EP, came in knowing the first 2 songs, and then they just kind of took me through the songs piece by piece to make sure that I got it right. And we've just been jamming ever since, and it's been fun. It's kind of what I was looking for. I was in another project that was a little too easy, and this is enough of a challenge to be interesting to me.
Yeah, one of the things that I was going to ask you about bass that I totally forgot was, what, in your opinion, what makes up a good bass player?
Oh man,
That's a good question.
yeah, this is stepping outside of the hard part. Like I learned a lot of bass to Green Day's Dookie.
Oh, yep.
And I think he does a good job of what I kind of try to do. You want to keep it simple. You're trying to keep the rhythm most of all, but you can do more than play 3 notes a song. You don't have to be over complex, but throw in your feels here and there to kind of spice things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
I think for a bass player, volume control is one of those big things. You know, every bass player wants to be the loudest bass player on the planet.
Yeah.
And you got to tone it down a little bit. But yeah, Ben came in hot. He's actually the first bass player in this band to say, like, live, he doesn't even listen to me. He listens to the drums. And, like, I was just super impressed. You know, like, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Because he was like, could you hear me? Like, I don't need to hear you.
That's what I want to hear from a bass player. Like, I don't need you, man. Like, I'm with the drums. And that's a good bass player right there.
Now I was gonna ask, what was that show experience like when you had to change positions like the very next day for a show? How'd that show go?
Oh, we killed it.
Yeah, it actually went really well.
Yeah.
It was funny.
A lot of, like, I wasn't expecting that. And that was way better than what we've seen before. So that's kind of when we knew, like, everything kind of happened in this band for a reason. You know, fate took place, and we killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
With boyfriends.
So when you guys were in a 3-piece band as to a 4-piece band, I mean, obviously without a bass player, it sounds a little bit different. But if you were to be kind of like a Nirvana setup where you had a bass player and a guitar player and a drummer, what would you say is the big difference between being in a 3-piece band as to being in a 4-piece band?
Sound. It just, you know, like
Vocals are a little bit more complex.
You know, when we were a 3-piece, I would play through a bass rig on the left side of the stage and then my guitar rig on the right side of the stage. And it sounded full and it sounded good, but there's just so much I can do alone, you know, if you have that extra musician there to fill in certain gaps. I'm allowed to do more. He's allowed to do more. And then the band just prospers from there.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I've heard a lot from bands that went to 3-piece to 4-piece. And when you guys were starting out and performing, what was your favorite venue that you guys performed at?
Locally?
Well,
Yeah, probably the District. It's a very nice big venue around here. The downfall of it is, if you have even 50 to 100 people in the venue, it still seems empty. But the sound is like no other venue in this city.
yeah.
That's great. So one of the questions that I like to ask most of the rock bands that I have on here, because it's a question that I love hearing answers to and I love discussing. Obviously, rock and roll music in general and just all the genres have taken kind of a hit since, I'd say, like the late 90s, early 2000s as it comes to mainstream popularity and influence. What do you think is personally responsible for that? I mean, we've heard dozens of reasons, but what do you guys personally think is responsible for that? And what do you think the genre can do in general in order to sort of regain a lot of the lost viewers and popularity that it once enjoyed?
That's a hard one.
Well, I don't think rock and roll is dead. I can see that there has been a decline. People just need to go to more shows. I can't tell you what's responsible. Maybe the internet, maybe.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot to like the
lazy.
rise of hip hop to just like kind of running out of new material because it's all been there's not that much new material to kind of like glance. I mean, we've heard a lot wide of stuff, but yeah, the internet too I really think is good. But I mean, we not really that, like rock and roll is dead. It's just that like you don't see like maybe unless it's like the Foo Fighters or other bands, you don't really see a lot of them like on most of like on the TV or like on the internet unless you like have to find them. That's kind of like what I think is the big difference. Back like 10, 15 years ago, you didn't need to find rock bands. Now you kind of have to find them a little more.
Yeah. And I think it has to do with the internet. And I think, like, yeah, the rise of hip-hop maybe because it's so mainstream now. It's not,
I listen to a lot of hip hop.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of hip-hop.
Oh, we're not hating on hip-hop. Yeah, we're just saying that they've kind of taken over rock's place.
But that just goes to show you, like, we're playing heavy rock music, but on our downtime, we like to sit back and drink a beer and listen to hip-hop. Maybe
it's because there was not so many subgenres of rock and roll at the time, and now there's hundreds, and people get picky. They found one that they like, and so maybe they don't want to go to a show that's a little bit different or they're not used to, and there's really no telling.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those complex issues that I think we hope it'll sort itself out and that rock will come back into a lot more mainstream play because it really is a genre that I think, especially today's generation, it's a pity that they don't have the same type of stuff that they had maybe like the late 80s, early 90s, that type of music. But when you guys were starting out, one thing that I did realize is through all this podcast is that Minneapolis, I'm right next to the Minneapolis area, it has a huge metal scene that I would have never expected. Everyone expects Minneapolis to think about like Prince, Bob Dylan, all those bands and guys that have come from there. But from being from Louisiana, especially the Lafayette area, we've had Subliminal Landmines has been on another Louisiana band. But what would you say specifically down where you guys live is the key genre or the genre, maybe other than like country music, but other than that, what is the big genre down there?
Cajun, Zydeco. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of Cajun Zydeco. I mean, I don't know if that means anything to a lot of podcast people.
That's like in a broad sense. I mean, like we do have a big underground scene, which is we don't have a lot of like punk bands, like real punk bands around here. We have a lot of metal, a lot of indie in the underground scene. But as far as like Louisiana and just where we're from, the biggest genre is definitely Zydeco. That's the seller.
Yeah. After that, as far as rock, probably some sort of indie. I mean, we've had national acts like the Givers came from Lafayette.
Yeah.
Royal Teeth. Yeah. So some indie bands around here have gone on to be pretty successful.
Did you guys find it hard to kind of grow an audience since your genre isn't like the big genre in the city, or since you said there's a huge underground movement? But how was it like first establishing yourself?
We've all been playing music for like 15 to 18 years. So, we know most of that scene. And when we come up with a new band, people are going to come see it. And so it wasn't really hard. I mean, there was like a decline for a little while just because some bands like oversaturate themselves. Not a lot of people want to go to every local show. So,
Yeah.
But we just put out that EP and we're picking up more momentum locally.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot better out of town, but for here, it's our hometown, and people are really starting to catch on to what we're doing and really enjoying it.
Yeah, people are starting to actually pay attention a little bit more instead of just like friends of friends of friends coming to shows. Like there's people coming out to see us that don't know us at all, but they just heard of us.
Right.
It's like a buzz on the street now. So
what's that feeling like
like
for you guys specifically? Like knowing that fans are coming out now, like specifically see you and that they really enjoy your music. Does that really seem to like validate what you guys are doing?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah, there's always that sense of, oh, this is why we're doing it, But
Yeah.
even if they weren't coming out, we wouldn't stop.
Mhm.
We'd be in a room playing music.
So, all right, now we go to the audience's favorite part of the podcast, where I do the Inside the Actors Studio-esque questions. I ask 5 questions, and we get the answers, and then I think once we reach the 50th podcast is what we agreed on, then I'll add them up and see who's in first place for most votes, stuff like that. You guys happen to be podcast number 30, so congratulations. It's been a short run, but we've gotten a lot of good material out. So for the first question that I'd like to ask you guys, and each one of you guys can answer this one individually. The first question is, out of all the songs that have ever been written in the history of music, what is one song that you personally wish you'd come up with and why?
I'd have to say, at least in my genre, or like what has influenced me growing up, probably I'd say Floater by Every Time I Die.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that one is just one that, ugh.
What song do I wish I wrote? Maybe Subdivisions by Rush.
Yep.
I wish I wrote that.
That's the third different Rush song we've had on here.
And that was hard to pick. I would have picked any Rush song. I wish I wrote any Rush song. They're incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as specific song, maybe Bookworm by Kid Dynamite. That was definitely a song I heard at the right kind of moment.
Oh yeah.
Take it back. It would be Not a Loser by the Descendants.
He's
Not a Loser by the Descendants.
Okay.
That was the song that made me I'm a punk kid.
That's awesome.
Solidified future.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So our next question is, all musicians, that doesn't apply dead or alive, you can choose either one, doesn't really matter. If you could perform in one concert with any musician, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, you're asking the tough questions.
We save them for the last.
All musicians, dead or alive. Elvis.
Good answer.
Yeah.
I want to play with Elvis.
That's the second Elvis. So you guys are both Elvis?
Oh man, that's a hard one.
That's the second Elvis we've had. So he's climbing the leaderboards a little bit.
Oh, can I take it back?
Sure.
Can I change my answer?
You can change your answer, yeah. As long as the podcast is still recording, you can change answers.
I would love to play a show with Frank Sinatra.
Yep.
That's my pick.
Okay, Tom Petty.
TP.
Who would I want to play a show with?
It's a hard question.
It is
I
a
could
hard
switch
question.
for the next hour.
Yeah. This is a long list. You have to.
Just blab one out there.
Maybe Ian Mackay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a pretty good. That is the second Frank Sinatra we've had and the second Tom Petty, so they're climbing. So far, the leader is Jimi Hendrix, who's had 3 now. So you guys, it's getting competitive now. So for the third question, out of all the venues on the planet, if you could play at one venue, where would you play and why? And I have to disclaimer before you guys answer the question: Red Rocks is off the menu because it's already had 8 picks, so it's already going to win. And it's been pissing me off that everyone picks Red Rocks, so I finally had to look it up. And then as soon as I looked it up, I was like, oh, yeah, Red Rocks. I could definitely see why people would be playing that. But other than Red Rocks, if you could play at any venue on the planet, where would you play at and why?
CBGB. That's where I would want to play.
That's the 4th CBGB.
Good. Well, let's make it higher than Red Rocks.
That's actually what I was about to say.
Yeah.
CBG.
That venue is always just...
That's fine. Yeah, now Red Rock. I mean, CBGB's got another one. We're up to 5 now, I guess.
I'd say St. Vitus.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one, too. That's second pick for me.
All right. Well, yeah, my personally one would be if you guys know Slane Castle in Ireland, that's my pick.
Oh yeah,
Oh, I didn't even think about him.
across the pond.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so now we got CBGB's is now officially in second place. Now this is where we really get down to it. We really find out the truth here. Guilty pleasure songs. What is one guilty pleasure song that that even you guys as bandmates might not know that you guys enjoy, and or even just someone like me and you down the street?
For me, I know that these guys know that I enjoy it, but Taylor Swift is probably my guilty pleasure.
What's your favorite Taylor Swift song?
Anything from the 1989 album.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the new version of Bad Blood. That's a really good song.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed. I don't feel guilty about liking it. She's great.
Yeah.
They know this already, but I'm like, I got a thing with Drake. I just can't stop listening to Drake. Problem.
What's your Drake song?
Oh, they change, man. It depends on what mood I'm in. He's got all those mood songs, man. He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
But I guess lately I've been listening to his new album, and I can't get that In My Feelings song stuck out of my head.
Doing the dance and everything.
Yeah, I don't know the dance. I think I had a couple drinks a couple weeks ago and tried to learn the dance. But,
Yeah, my girlfriend's trying to get me to do that. She's like, "Get up, do it." Like, no.
Now you have to learn it. Now it's
Mine's probably Down Under from Men at Work. Actually, that whole album.
Oh, that's
I
great.
listen to
Yeah.
that shouldn't be a guilty pleasure.
I was gonna say that's
I
like the
think-
Australian national anthem.
What else do I have? That's
Come on, is that way more embarrassing?
Embarrass yourself.
Don't they also sing Who Can It Be Now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great fucking album.
That's a great song.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like people nowadays, they'll give me like a song from the '80s and think it's like guilty pleasure. It's like, no, that's not a guilty pleasure song. Like we've had the number one winner by
Right.
far, hands down, is "I Want It That Way." Some death metal guy who looked like you would never think that he'd ever listen to that
Matchbox 20.
said that. Yeah. Well, Matchbox 20, yeah, they're pretty good too. And then we've also had one guy say "Bop," and that's our second best guilty pleasure song that someone's ever said. But they own Hanson owns a special place in my heart because I grew up I was super, super young when they were getting super popular. But lastly, guilty pleasure genre that you enjoy.
Pop.
Pop? Yep.
Yeah, I like pop.
Pop is by far the winner so far. It's got like 14 votes.
Yeah, top 40. Like, I still listen to all the stuff on the radio, and I mean, I don't like love it all at all. That's not the case, but
I just put it on and zone out to it, When
Yeah.
I'm driving or something.
it's
Throw
I
some
don't
Katy
know.
Perry at me.
Yeah.
Well, I like to stay with the times, Getting a little older, I don't want to get left behind. I want to see
Yeah.
what the kids are listening to.
What are your guys' opinions on remixes that come out now of like older songs? Like there's that one band that came up with the remix of Toto's Africa, and then there's another band that came up with like Sound of Silence. Like, what are your guys' opinions on those?
Stop doing it.
Exactly. Thank you.
Terrible.
Yeah, stop doing it.
Like
Thank you.
I found a silent. Like I have an echo. So whoever has one, I'm not gonna say it. But I was just like, hey, play Sound of Silence because I was trying to be dramatic for someone, and they started playing the Disturbed Sound of Silence. I was so mad.
That's it's fighting words, right? You fight
Like
them.
how dare you show me this one?
Exactly. Like there are obviously a good amount of cases in history where a remix has been even better than the original, but nowadays the way that they're doing them, it's just so commercialized and so flat that it's just you can just see that they're just trying to make money off of it, and it's just it's ridiculous. So you guys mentioned that you guys have an EP out. Where can people find you guys? Do you guys have YouTube? Are you guys on iTunes, Spotify? How can they get a hold of your music?
We're on everything.
Yeah, we're on everything. We have Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Google Play, Bandcamp. I mean, you can find us anywhere except
yeah.
SoundCloud. I don't think we have a SoundCloud.
No, I don't think we have SoundCloud.
Yeah, I'll definitely leave a link below for each and every one of those for anyone who wants to come and check these guys out. Do you guys have any shows coming up? How's that working out?
We do. August 27th, we're going to play here in Lafayette with a band called Toke. They're a doom band from somewhere. I know they're like Road Warriors. They're constantly on tour. And then September 10th, we're going to play with Los Angeles Bad Boys, See You Space Cowboy.
Ooh.
So dope name.
Yeah, they're insanely good. I've liked them for a long time, so I'm glad we got the offer to do that show.
We're going to Texas mid-September also.
September 14th we'll be in Austin, Texas. September 15th we'll be in San Antonio, Texas, and the 16th we're working on Dallas right now. We're booked through the end of the year.
Yeah. That's
So
great.
we've got quite a few things coming up.
So yeah, you guys, if you're in the area, August 27th, to go and see them with Toke, definitely go and definitely go and check these guys out. And then if you're in the Texas area, September 14th, 15th, 16th, in San Antonio, was it Austin, then San Antonio, and then maybe Dallas? I'll leave the links for those dates maybe below possibly. And if you guys are in that area, definitely go and check these guys out. I like to end this kind of like two questions that I like to ask, and each of you guys can answer this individually. But if someone were to come up and walk up to you on the street and say, like, hey, I'm trying to form this band, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give him in order to make a successful band?
Go to a show, talk to people. You're not gonna, you can't just post, hey, I want to be in a band. I mean, if you go to any local show around here, it's gonna be packed with musicians. Talk to them, talk about what genre you want to play. If people are interested, they'll do it. Don't get on Craigslist.
Yeah. Network, be open. Like, don't go in thinking that, like,
nothing's going to be handed to you.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of kids sometimes come in with this ego, like, I'm going to be the next whatever. It's like, don't do that. Just come in, be open, learn from the people you're playing with. Just start jamming with people, going to shows.
Yeah, and play what you want to play. Don't make yourself have to play what you think's popular. I think that's why like stoner rock is on the rise right now. It's like everybody wants to play stoner rock because it's popular right now. And it's just play what makes you feel good.
Yeah, and lastly, if you could go back and talk to yourself like 5 or 10 years or any type of amount ago, let's say like 5 years, what advice would you give yourself musically?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Probably say keep going.
Keep going, slow down the drinking.
Yeah, I quit drinking 3 years ago, so 5 years ago I would have said quit drinking then.
Yeah.
So that I could have been, maybe a few years ahead of where I'm at now.
Step out of your comfort zone. I think I played a lot of the same safe riffs for a long time. Just start experimenting. Don't stop learning.
Yeah.
Exactly. And never stop learning.
So, and then I'd like to add this on too. One of the big things that I've, especially being my age, I'm 23 years old, and just with the generational thing, just being able to persevere when life gets you down, because it's at an age now where like you got to find jobs, you really got to start contributing to society, and being in a band, I really think that it takes a special level of like being a headstrong individual and being able to kind of deal with the blows, get up and fall down, keep getting back up. How much does perseverance really think played with you guys when it comes to being able to just deal with life as a band that's starting to find some popularity?
I don't know. We haven't given up. We keep going no matter what. I wake up and I think, who can I email this CP to, or who can I get my music to right now? I'll never stop persevering. I don't really know the answer to that.
Yeah, I think we all kind of know what we kind of want out of the band. I think
that's important too. Right?
Yeah, like the whole old idea that you have to hate your band. I don't get that. If you hate your band, get out of the band and join another band where you're comfortable.
Have fun.
Yeah, because I've been in those bands, and those bands aren't fun.
Yeah. If it's not fun, get out.
Yeah, I mean, and personally, I mean, I think you guys are great. I mean, I listened to a few of your songs, and I just really enjoyed it. You guys have a lot going for you, and your just ability to like persevere and everything like that. I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck. You guys have anything that you need me to plug, you just shoot me an email or message me on Facebook and say like, hey, we're playing this show there, whatever. Could you make an announcement? I'd be more than happy to. You guys have any music coming out? I'm more than happy to plug that for you guys. I love helping out the people that come on this show. And you guys are more than welcome to come on the show again, too, if you want. I mean, you guys did a really great job. If you guys wanted to plug, like, maybe a tour that you guys are upcoming or anything like that, just give me a shout-out. More than happy to have you guys on. And do you guys also have any songs that are coming out? Do you guys have, like, an album that you're working on?
We have a bunch of songs that we're going to be recording soon. And I think our next album is going to be a split with someone. I'm talking to a few bands right now that aren't local, but I think we're going to go the split route on the next one.
Nice. So yeah, so again, just give me a shout out. I'll post the stuff down below, and everyone, like I said, down below you'll have all their links. Definitely go and check these guys out. They're one of those bands that I think if you look in like a year or two from now, you're gonna say, "Oh, I wish I would have got into them when they were still above the fame that they're going to be at 2 years from now." I mean, these guys, I think with the perseverance that they have, the sky's the limit for these guys. So I think lastly, I mean, it was great having you on. And do you guys have anything else that you'd like to plug before we end the show here?
No, man. Thanks for having us. This has been great.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out.
Absolutely, no problem. Yeah, I love getting a hold of these bands, and I love talking to you guys. I mean, it's enriched my life so much, just learning more about music, and just also giving you guys a chance to get your voice out there a little bit more. And I mean, more than happy to do it. So again, go and see these guys, Capra. They are a great band. I highly recommend them to everyone out there listening. And again, links down below. And this is DD on the spot. Ryan Johnson signing out. Have a great day, everyone.